And we're on.
All right. Welcome, everyone. My name is Sonia Dudley, and I'm a Diamond Ambassador with Plexus, and I have my power partner, Helen, on the phone. She's also a Diamond, and this is week 2 of our Grow Up to Go Up class, and we're really excited that you're on tonight. It has been, to say a very emotional week would be an understatement. Helen and I have talked a lot this week. Despite our busy schedule, we made time to talk a lot just about how we didn't realize when we, put those questions out there that we just really had no idea that it would have the effect it has had on you guys. And in a great, great way, but just very unexpected. It sounds like that you feel like you have a very safe place to open up, and we're so grateful that you feel that way. And I do want to say, we're not counselors by all means. We feel like it sometimes, and maybe we're getting closer to a degree, but we're not. So I want to say, this is just the first step, I think, in freeing yourself of what's been holding you back. So I would say after this class, if you still feel like you are carrying around that burden and those fears, you definitely need to seek some true counseling if you feel that way. And some of you obviously may not, but some may. So just want to kind of put that out there. Helen, you want to talk about?
Yeah, I just, obviously some of your stories that we've been reading are just a lot more heavy and deeper, and the pain is deeper, and some of it's just really, for the first time, you've really pinpointed that that's where your fear comes from. And again, we are not counselors, we don't have any kind of degree in any of this, but, and we're going to follow the book, and do the best we can with the knowledge we're gaining from the book and our experiences of working with people in the last 20 years in our network marketing about fears and how real they are and all that. But for those of you, I think that it's the first step, obviously, in the whole reprogramming. This is the very, very first step you have to take in order for the reprogramming to begin, which is awesome. It's awesome, and God bless all of you for sharing. We don't take it lightly. I have not read all of them, and that's my goal, is to read every single one, and just, be able to comment and like it and things like that. But I think the whole forgiveness part is huge. Just in life, that's just a known thing. You forgive so that you don't carry that burden anymore. And I think, like, when I made the video a few days ago about the whole, like, when you free your mind of any kind of bitterness or anger or resentment, it allows you to be the person that God created you to be. You do all of it for you to better your future. All that matters right now, it's not what happened in the past, it's the here and now and moving forward. And so the whole reprogramming is the beginning of a beautiful thing that's going to happen for you in your journey in Plexus. It's awesome. It's going to change. It's going to be life-changing, as we know from the book. But I just wanted to just kind of reiterate with Sonia, we are here to love and support you. We can't, obviously, you guys know that. We can't, like, counsel you or anything like that. We're all here just to feel like we have a safe place. And we are all so much the same. Whether it's an abusive situation we've come from physically or verbally or both, the both is obviously way harder. But just know, this is just part of the whole process. It's exciting, and I just want to thank everybody for who's taken on the challenge. And for those of you who may feel like, well, I don't really have a story. I had a great childhood. Some of you have said that, and that's awesome. You are very, very blessed. And but there might still be something that happened 10 years ago, something a coworker said to you or whatever. It's just recognizing that stuff. And maybe some of you really truly feel like you don't have a lot to work through. And that's okay. We don't expect everybody to have a bunch of baggage or anything like that. But if you do, this is where we're going to just kind of work through it through the book and feeling like we have a safe place to share. And that was part of it, is just recognizing it, sharing it with somebody, which is awesome if you want to do it in our group, or it just can be with your spouse, your best friend, your power partner, whatever. But recognizing it so the reprogram can begin, so you can start to achieve your dreams. You know, God didn't create a nobody. He created all of us with skills, and we're all equipped. We are enough. We have to figure that out through our reprogramming in this book and the support of one another. So
cool. Thank you. Yeah.
So I think I'm gonna, if you don't have anything more to say, I'm gonna just, what Sonia and I are gonna do tonight is, we don't really need to recap chapter 1. It was kind of an introduction to what the book's all about. So I'm gonna do 2, and we're gonna just trade off through 2, 3, 4, and 5, because that was your assignment this week, was to read chapters 1 through 5. So I just kind of wanted to share, I'm not gonna obviously reread the book with you all, but I did highlight some key points and some things that I wanted to just kind of go through, I feel is really important for all of us to be able to glean from this, the chapters. So in chapter 2, the title was The Answers. And a lot of what the book was about was how much, or that chapter was about, was how much we've been told no from the time we were born. 148,000 times on average, we were told no, or what we cannot do in life. And as a baby, you know, and a child, like, that's how you're shaped and molded, is by people telling you their expectations, or that's just becomes our truth. So we're kind of recognizing that in this chapter, how impactful that is, and that 77% of what we do here is negative and works against us. I wish it weren't the case. I don't know why. You know, I think that'll be one of the questions I ask God one day when I'm in heaven. It's like, why couldn't it be the opposite?
Really?
It has a lot to do with just faith and trust. And, you know, it is a biblical thing. It's as a man thinketh, so is he. This is a biblical, straight out of the Bible, as far as what our thoughts are, how they mold and shape us. And we really are a reflection of our thoughts. I've heard one time, your personality is just like your brain turned inside out. And so, you know, it's just, you can't dispute that. So we know now that that is the truth. And one of the things that I really loved about this chapter that I highlighted, Sonia and I both highlighted, was repetition is a convincing argument. So what's the exciting news about that is that if we make our repetition positive, we are going to be convinced and convince others through that repetition that great things only will happen and we can achieve our dreams. So make that your motto. You know, repetition is a convincing argument, and my repetition is now positive and based on faith and conviction and hope and dreams and all that stuff. So I love that. On a side note, what I wanted to share from that really stood out about this chapter, and how the odds just obviously are stacked against us on average, most of us from birth, because we've heard more negative than positive. If you have not seen the movie called Gifted Hands, and it's the story of Ben Carson's life, and this is not a political movie, it's just a story of a man who had a lot of things stacked against him. He was, Ben had a brother, and they lived in a small apartment with a mom who was illiterate, and she had no education. She had to clean homes for a living. And I won't tell you the whole book, but he ended up becoming, if you don't know, like, the outcome is, you know, he is one of the most gifted, if not the most gifted brain surgeons in the world. And he was not, that wasn't supposed to happen, but his mom breathed belief into him. She actually went to go clean house. I'll tell you one little part of the movie. She went to go clean a house one day for a man who was very, very wealthy. And he had like just hundreds of books really up high in his library. And she went to go clean it. And she asked him, have you read all these books? Now, she herself couldn't read. And he said, yeah, I have. And obviously he was, you know, very wealthy, living in a mansion. And she went home that day and started to just tell her boys that they were going to be somebody and they need to read books instead of, you know, watch TV. And that was their ticket. They became just extremely, you know, they were already smart, but they just it worked in their favor to have a mom who just told them, you are going to be somebody. Oh, it's such a good movie. And I kept thinking about it with this chapter. So I really encourage all of you to get it. It's like if you have Netflix, it's free. You can just watch it anytime. It's awesome. So I'm going to turn over chapter 3 to Sonia.
All right. I want to say something about chapter 2 before we go. I love how it says, page 25, it says, you will become what you think about the most. It says your success or failure in anything, large or small, will depend on your programming, what you accept from others, and what you say when you talk to yourself. It makes no difference whether we believe it or not. The brain simply believes what you tell it the most, and what you tell it about you, it will create. It has no choice. To me, that is one of the most empowering statements in the book. It ought to give us, so much freedom, because that it's like if I say to you, you look so ugly today. Well, you hear that and you internalize it, and it matters to you, and it bothers you, and it creates thoughts and further thoughts. Well, if you look at yourself in the mirror and you say, "Ugh, Sonia, you look so ugly today," what do you think that does? It does the same thing, except you can't walk away from yourself. You can't, you're with yourself.
The only person who will never leave you.
Yep. The only person who will never leave you. And so I think it's one of the most powerful statements in the book. Is on page 25. No matter what you say, your brain doesn't decipher the difference. Is this truth? Is this false? It puts it in one box. That's huge. So I could not leave that chapter without covering that.
I know. We were go.
We were just bouncing. She highlighted, I highlighted, and I told her I was going to add to what she.
No, I know. It's good.
Yeah. So chapter 3, and I'm watching the time. We really wanted to cover these in about 40 minutes, so I'm really trying to do that. In chapter 4, he talks about what works and what doesn't work. And he talks about, as he was, growing up, he started recognizing that something vital was missing. He was looking for that missing ingredient. And basically, he goes on to talk, maybe in this chapter, about how, like, we buy all the books, we go to all the conventions, we go to all the trainings, but there's still something missing. And what was that missing ingredient? That could cause that lasting change, like to really make it change. And he says, on page 28, I highlighted, since the old programming controls the habits, it is the old habits which once again take over. And, it really made me think, like, there's just things in our lives that, even though we work on them for a while, if we stop for a period of time, the old patterns come back, the old programming comes back, the old habits come back. And that's because it took 40-something years, in my case, 46 years, to program me. Why do I think that even 30 or 60 days of doing something is enough, that if I stopped for a week or two, that I wouldn't regress? I just thought about that, like how many months it must really take to really, really change for good. That really spoke to me this week, and it really made me evaluate doing some new affirmations on things that I'm lacking and weak on in my life. So,
Sonia, can I just say something too? Yeah. What's so great about this group, we have over 100 of all of us together. so much of staying in the reprogramming mode and really letting it become part of your life, to be working on self-improvement all the time, is to surround yourself with like-minded people that this stuff matters to them. They're not going to laugh at you. Now, obviously, we're going to get so strong that no matter what anybody thinks, we don't care. It's none of our business. However, it does make the journey so much more exciting to be in the personal growth mode and reprogramming with our friends and our Plexus family. So, I'd love to keep the group open, and so many of you guys are posting these awesome graphics, and we just love it. So fun.
It's so powerful. Yeah, this is just the beginning. This whole class is just 5 or 6 weeks. That's just the beginning of what can be pretty major in the rest of your life. On page 29, he says, of all the self-help concepts I've uncovered, the concept of programming the brain with a more successful new picture of yourself is the most sensible. And that just kind of goes back to talking about, like that mental image, how important it is. The mental image of ourself. He said, during the years of observing and practicing analyzing the results of others, he continued to say, if there's so many good solutions out there and great books and great seminars, and, why aren't they creating permanent change in our lives? And so here were the 3 things that he came to, 3 conclusions that he came to. Number 1, at the bottom of page 30, was most authors are on the right track with all the books. And some of the books, like the names of them, believe in yourself, take responsibility for yourself, create your own future, focus on what you want, be creative, think big, all the books we know. He said most of them are on the right track. That's for sure. Number 2, if you follow their advice, most of it will help. And number 3 is if you stop following their advice, of course, it will probably stop working. So even though those things are all great, still, what is the key to permanent change? So he said, on page, let's see, I've got so much highlighted. On page 34, back to the missing ingredients. Here they are. The first one that's missing is permanence. And that, he says, and I love talking about this. I talk about this at my John Maxwell stuff. All external solutions are temporary. Even the best ideas only work temporary. You go to convention, you get excited, you come back with all these ideas, you're motivated, but they're still temporary because you find yourself hitting a wall. And next week, I believe chapter 6 starts, I believe that's the one talking about the wall, but we hit that wall. And until we go inward, my John Maxwell coach, his name is Christian Simpson, and he says this. He goes, let's see, how's it worded? Hang on. Until people are willing to go inward, let's see, hang on just a minute. You will always go without. Oh gosh, y'all, just give me a few minutes. It will come back to me. It's like you can't keep looking outward and expect to go anywhere. If you fail to go within, you will always go without. That's it. I knew it would come. If you fail to go within, you will always go without. It's just the truth. And so what we're doing now is we are all obviously going inward. And then you'll be able to not be without, and to be able to peel the onion back. Number 2 was the second ingredient missing is a knowledge of just how the human brain works. The brain runs the ship. It's pretty simple. He's like, if you want this to happen, if you want to eat corn, you've got to plant corn. If you want something, you've got to put in what you want to get that out. Well, it's the same with our brain. We can't expect to put in all day long, I'm ugly, I'm tired, I'm fat, I'm broke, I can't do this. If I were only like her, I'm not that kind of person. We can't expect to put that in and get awesome, great things, right? It just, when we think of it logically, it makes sense, but we don't think of it logically. We're constant chatter all day long, and we can't shut our brain off. So it's real important that we understand, because we can't shut the chatter off, we have to change it just by reprogramming it. And it's going to take time. It's going to take time. The third missing ingredient is a new word for word set of directions, new programming to the subconscious mind, which is what I was just saying. The control center of the brain. It's a whole new vocabulary that we have to give ourselves. Whatever means you choose to make the change, unless you first begin to change your old programming, the years of conditioning that keeps you doing it in the old way will obviously outlast the new. So just you want to add anything to that? It's just so.
Yeah,
so
and I totally agree that it takes time, and you have to be, like, I'm speaking to all of you, not you, Sonia, but like everyone, we need to be ready for the change. I think one of the hardest things about when I was a Weight Watcher leader was just to see how many people were so excited when they first joined the program. And some of them who had a lot of weight to lose. And after, 3-4 weeks, I'd never see them again. And I think sometimes, we get so comfortable with our conversation, who we are. This is my identity. Like, to all of a sudden become a completely different person that says, I'm beautiful, I'm worthy, I'm smart, I'm capable, I am loved, it takes a lot of strength. It takes a lot of inner strength. And it's kind of like when we were talking about the repetition as a convincing argument, I think of like somebody who's like a hypochondriac and they're always sick because they're always saying, I'm sick, I don't feel good. Like, and they're sick their whole life because they bring it on, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So all of a sudden if that was your story, let's just say, for example, and then all of a sudden I'm healthy, I'm happy, I don't ever get sick. It's a huge mind shift if that's why we say, like, we're not counselors or anything like that, but we have to be realistic and know, what we're in the process of becoming through this book, and really allowing this book to become absorbed in layers, for us to have the courage to do this is a big task. So, all of us are worthy of it. We all are in this for a reason. This is no accident, and it's our time. Why not? Like what you were saying, Sonia, like, I think people just think, oh, someday I'll change.
Yeah.
Someday I'll, I remember one time, and this is years ago, probably 20 years ago, I was talking to somebody who probably was 20, 30 pounds overweight, maybe more. And she just said, I just get so sick of it. I just figure, one morning I'll just wake up and it'll just all be gone. And I thought, oh my gosh, but how desperate people get, like nothing works, so we just get comfortable and just think someday. But
yeah.
What does that mean? It's just fear. Someday it's a word for fear.
It is, because so someday, so it's like, okay, so you keep planting corn and one day you're going to have carrots, which is what you're wanting. That's not going to happen until you change the wording and the programming and the black box. Nothing's going to change. It's just, it's not by luck that you meet someone and you go, wow, that is a really, really, that's the person I want to be around. You think that's luck, that person, the way they are? It's not luck. They've worked it the way they are. They've worked maybe to change. Maybe we don't know what they've overcome, but, it's like reading that book where we want to open the book and we want to read an interesting book. The people who overcome, like Ben Carson, what you're talking about, a movie, it sounds like a great movie, but I love that. I love a book of overcoming, and that's what we have to take that on as our word for 2016 is now I'm an overcomer. I'm an overcomer. I can conquer my fears. I conquer my fears. I overcome all my fears. I'm an overcomer. I love that word. That's my new word. So, all right, chapter 4.
Awesome. Okay, so chapter 4 is kind of interesting because it really it delves more into that our brain is like a computer. So he gives some examples and comparisons to like a disk and a keyboard and all that. And I won't go into all that because we did all read the book, but it just I know, I highlighted here, if computers are alien to you, it's important only to understand that whatever is programmed into your own personal mental computer, it's permanently programmed. So whatever program you've received up to now is just as permanent as any new program, which has been key punched into the most powerful man-made computers. So he goes on to talk about, just our moods and, like every single part. I mean, our brain is so like, I can't even imagine how complex our brain is. And we don't even use most of it for sure. But it governs our health, controls our emotions, planning, our hopes, our dreams, how we act, how we move, sit, stand, walk, look, speak, react, respond, everything about us, our memory, our judgment, our attitude, our fears, our creativity, our logic, spirit, is all controlled by the switches up here. So within a fraction of a second, some of those switches are turned off or on. So it's our brain's responsibility to take care of us by monitoring our needs and directing the various parts of our systems to take the necessary action. The brain automatically responds to every one of our unconscious and physical commands. I won't keep reading, but it's really fascinating. Every thought we think, everything about it is it's controlled by our everything, our feeling, every moment of the day. So I did highlight the last. I'll just read this last one, and it's pretty self-explanatory. It's complex, but yet I think once we just understand that's how deep, like why the longer you've been listening to whatever you believe, it's just permanently programmed in there. And that's why it's a huge process to turn that around, but not impossible, right? The obvious programs are those comments, questions, and statements which are made to us directly. We are told by our parents and other adults what we can and cannot do. We are told we are good at something or what we're not good at. We are told how we look. We are told what to expect, what to believe, and how to act, what to do or not to do, because starting out as children, we're completely dependent on others, and it's important to our survival to listen and to believe what others say. And we learn to accept what others tell us, and we learn to believe it. Now, going back to chapter 2, if most of that 77% of it is negative, then we know why we might be stuck in, feeling like this is it, this is my life, this is who I am, this is my identity. But I think, that this is where the faith part comes in. We know, right, in our gut what God made us to be somebody. And that if we have just allowed this programming to happen our entire life with the belief that we will just go to our grave that way, we know different. We know now it's not exactly true, and that God has so much more for us as human beings. So that's the exciting part. It's just powerful stuff. I mean, we can't dispute it. It is what it is, but the good news is we can change. Get that brain tweaked a little.
Well, and a lot of this is repetitive. And so probably each week, we won't have to go through. We want you to highlight, we want you to go through the book and highlight, and you take this as a self-study. We don't want to read every week, but we really wanted to dive into the book. The very beginning of the book is so powerful. It kind of sets the tone for the rest of the book. Chapter 5 I love this chapter because it talks about we learn to believe. We learn to believe. He gives 2 examples. On page 42, he talks about when he was a kid, how he really wanted to play a musical instrument. But he overheard someone say he was not musically talented, like that he had no talent in music. He heard that. And from that point on, he believed it. And so he's never forgotten that. The second example was that on a good note, this little boy, Michael, overheard an old man tell his mother that he was very creative and he would grow up and do things that were very creative. Well, that little boy ended up, he believed it. He just remembers always believing that about himself. And he is now the dean of Walt Disney University. So, it goes to show that, what we hear, we do believe. And you guys know that based on what you've been telling us. But the unconscious conditioning from other people. And on page 44, I highlighted a great example of this. But In the middle of the page, it says, at our best, we've been living with only a part of our life's programs working for us, a part of that. Imagine what you could do if you could override the programs in your subconscious mind, those that still work against you, and replace them with a refreshing new program of absolute belief, an almost unconscious, automatic new program that would go to work for you, replacing the barriers with a refreshing new look at your life that you have in front of you. When I was in another business, some of you have heard me say this, 1 year I took it would now be a voice recorder, but it was called a cassette tape, and it was an endless loop cassette tape. And Helen remembers this. And I recorded my goals and affirmations on that tape. And I slept with earbuds in my ears. And that reprogrammed my subconscious mind. All my fears, I put the opposite and I put them on there in present tense. Very powerful. And I would be out talking to people. And one of my affirmations, I was real scared to talk to people. I mean, I was young, guys. I was in my mid-20s. I didn't know what to say to people. I was young, trying to sponsor these people that were, 30, 40 years old. I was intimidated. So I had to get over that. That was one of my affirmations. And I remember just all of a sudden, I would just start talking to somebody, and I had no fear. I kept thinking, there was no hesitation. Why is there no hesitation? Why am I not afraid? It's like it's that unconscious, subconscious reprogramming. And that's what you can do for yourself. So that's going to be part of your homework this week. And we'll get to that here in just a second. It's 8:32. I'm almost finished. Okay, so let's say your personal onboard computer, page 45. If you were getting on an airplane and you were getting on the plane and they said, wait a minute, we've got the plane's programming is completely wrong. Something's wrong. First of all, you probably wouldn't get on the plane. And if you did get on the plane, it would either crash or it would take you to a different destination. So you got to reprogram the mind. I think that's pretty clear. You need a new set of directions. So the last thing I'll close with before we give you your assignments on chapter 47, if we change our attitudes and our behavior just by changing our programming, then none of us have to deal with our old negative programming dragging us down or holding us back. So we can just learn to give it specific new programming. I love that. What an exciting decision it is to break through that wall, and any of us can do it once we recognize what the real wall is and can get past it. And see, what you guys have done this week is you've recognized the wall. You've become aware. And when you become aware of something, you then can, when you're aware of it, then when you hear that negative program, then you hear yourself go, oh, who are you to do that? Oh, why do you think you could be a good, well, when you start hearing that, now that you're aware of it, that's the big step, because now you can replace it. To me, it's huge. This is huge. It's huge. So, okay. Helen, you want to start with the first assignment? We'll wrap this up in the next 7 or 8 minutes.
Yep.
5, 6, 7 minutes.
Yep. You got your purse?
Huh? Oh, shut up.
Okay. So here we go. I love all this. I think this is such great stuff. I think all of us really have that memory of somebody telling us we could or couldn't do something. I know when Matt was little, he was told he had no rhythm. He tried to play the drums, and I think it's hilarious. He plays the piano like by ear. He's never taken a lesson. Now I know rhythm and piano, but there was a similar story in that chapter about the drums, and then he went on to play the piano. And I just think, again, it's like we all have talents. We all know we have to recognize what we've been told we couldn't do and crush it. So now that you guys, so here's your first assignment. So now that you guys have written down and shared your fears with someone you trust, whether it was in our group or maybe you shared them with, your spouse or your power partner or whatever, I want you to write a counter affirmation to that summary. So in other words, what you've written out is what's happened in your life and somebody told you something, and we now know that most of you, or maybe all of you, that heard that, you bought into that belief for a very long time. I know there's some of you who said, I went on to graduate from college and I went on to do this, but I still live with X, Y, and Z, or, fill in the blank or whatever. So write a counter affirmation to your summary. And so that would be just bringing new life to your story, acknowledging those people, and those fears no longer define you, and those fears no longer control you. So just really making it an affirmation, like, this happened to me, but now I, no longer have that. I no longer own that. It doesn't define me. So however creative you want to be, it doesn't have to be long. It can just be like, this is what I was told when I grew up, and I no longer feel this way. I know God made me, and then you put in all the powerful adjectives that are truth. So one of the things I wrote out that I thought would be kind of powerful for a new affirmation would be, and we'll repost this on the group page, your assignments, but to write out, blank was wrong. So for instance, for me, my my brother, is just real negative. Mike was wrong. So blank was wrong, and I have wrong in all caps. I am blank. So Mike was wrong. I am a good runner. The childhood boys were wrong. I am not fat as a watermelon. I mean, just something where it's powerful, like stating that they're wrong, because they are wrong. They were wrong. They'll always be wrong. But now you own that they're wrong and that you are blank. I think it's just very powerful to just give it back. Like, they were wrong. They were wrong, and this is who I am. So have that. And then you can write, also, I do not own that anymore. It's dead and buried forever. All right? So blank was wrong. I am blank. I do not own that anymore. It's dead and buried forever. So that's the assignment.
Very good. I mean, it's just such a limited belief. It's not even your belief. Remember, when your brain just takes it and processes it as truth. So someone else's words to you are not, you choose. When someone says something to you, or makes, some of you didn't really say that people said anything to you. You're telling about what happened to you and how you felt. So as that's happening,
defined you.
Pardon me?
It defined you. What happened to you then became what defines you.
Yeah,
if you were abused or what, whatever. I mean, it just happened to you, but it's not who you are,
Right. So it's time to, if those feelings are not serving you well, and those words you hear are not serving you well, you're welcome to give them back to the person who gave them to you, because they weren't yours to start with. You just borrowed them for many, many years, and they've not worked for you, so you can give them back. And you may have to see yourself in your mind physically handing them a basket of old garbage that's not serving you well. Just a bag of garbage, just handing it to them and it being gone. But you need to visualize getting rid of it. Visualizing all this is really important. Okay, and then I want you to voice record your affirmations this week. I want you to voice record those, however you can do that, to where it gets on whatever you do to hear them back, but voice record your new beliefs. Listen to yourself saying all the amazing things about yourself. Some of you are going to have an issue with this, because it's hard for you to hear someone else say a compliment to you. So it's really going to be tough for you to hear yourself give yourself a compliment. You are not bragging. You are reprogramming. It is important that you do it, and there's no thoughts to this. You do it. Reprogram your mind. And you say things however you need to say them. The most powerful, some of you had trouble with thinking, you're not pretty or whatever, and or you're always going to be too heavy or whatever, change those out. I love my body. I love that I'm absolutely the most beautiful person I know. I feel so good about myself when I see myself in the mirror. When I walk in a room, people stare at me because of my beauty. I'm not kidding. Just say these things. It's going to give you some power.
if you say those bad things, Sonia, it's like you're saying it to God. Like you created somebody ugly and worthless. You know, if that can put it into perspective for you, because he would just cry to know that you really believe that he made you to suffer and to think so low of yourself that you're not a beautiful person inside and out. So, you know, if that can help.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, he didn't make a mistake. So, I love that. Okay, so that's pretty much all other than read chapters. Well, Helen, we're going to read chapters 5 through 10 this week. And you can go back and then your last assignment, but yeah.
Okay, so so that's the assignments from us, and then chapters 5 through 10, and then to have 3 more perfect plexus days this week. And I know we haven't posted much about that in the group, but I think it's really important that you are focusing on your activity as well. There's no reason why in December, you know, we have got to be planting the seeds and really working, not just baking all month and working on this book, but to stay in action, because January 1st starts weight loss season. And, you know, in my mind, it really is now, because people need to get comfortable with the idea about plexus. We're just planting seeds. We're, you know, going to get that harvest next year. And our job is to be reaching out. And we still have some free shipping until the 14th, right? It's the 14th or 15th of this month? 14th. And, you know, just to really stay focused. And as you're working your perfect, you know, days, you're using the book as part of the assignment and everything, but be thinking about, you know, how much, like more comfortable it might be to be working your business and to be doing this as you release all these fears and thoughts and as you connect with your other team members. I really want you to be thinking about those things, because these will show up in the way you are with your team. They just will. When you become more confident and bold and believing with your reprogramming that you are worthy of all this in plexus, you will show up more for your team. You'll be more bold. You'll be more confident. And that will only bless other people. You know, we just want to be that light for other people to give them permission to do the same. So just be thinking about that too, because they're all tied together. They really are. So I love you guys. I'm going to let Sonia close, and super, super excited about this class.
Yep. Jacqueline said that there's an app called Record It Again that can repeat the 2-minute recording up to 20 times. Thank you, Jacqueline, because that's huge, because then on my affirmations, I can use that app and it'll just play it up to 20. I love that. So it can, it's called Record It Again. Jacqueline, just post it in the group, the name of the app, awesome. But it can repeat your 2-minute recording up to 20 times. That's great. So anyway, you know, I just want you to understand.
See all these smart people we surround ourselves with. I love it.
I love
That's
learning.
That's a sign of a good leader, when you surround yourself with people that are smarter than yourselves.
That's exactly right. And when you have no trouble doing it, and you have no ego about doing it. We have no egos about doing any of it. I mean, you can't have an ego and be a leader. You can't. It won't last long. We love you so much. And this is a heavy class, and it's a big commitment. So we don't take it lightly. We just pray about it all the time, and I hope you do too. And I want you to have a great week. Read chapters 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I know it sounds like a lot, but if you did, you know, a chapter a day, you'd have, you know, for 5 days. And we'll be back on Sunday, but we'll be talking to you this week in the group. So have a great week.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.